Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Alright, I think today's going to be kind of an especially interesting news story. We're going to do kind of a little bit in-depth look at two of our characters from Andor. First, we're going to talk about Kyle Solar's Syril Karn. It's hard to say that really fast. And then right after that, we're going to talk about Andy Serkis' Kino Loy.
Ooh, what about Dedra?
Hold your horses, you're getting ahead of yourself.
You know, it's my first ship.
I know. So first we'll talk about Syril Karn. Kyle Solar and Catherine Hunter created a backstory about Syril's absent father. And we are going to talk a little bit about that weird
What do we
scene
need a
with him
backstory for? We know why he left. Just saying.
Just saying, he says. This is a lot to get through, because it's interesting. Solar had a chat with /film about the show and revealed that he created this whole backstory for why his dad's not around. He said, I wound up working out my own story, and then I started collaborating with Catherine Hunter, who plays his mother, about it as well. We kind of figured out the same thing, that he left really early in like a horrible way, and that was really the launch pad for how Edie then parents Syril, which is by, being wronged. Her anger, grief, and disappointment and frustration about her husband leaving just all got filtered onto Syril. Growing up without a father is a whole level of psychology that we could delve into, but that's another podcast-length interview. It's heavy, and that absence definitely drives Syril as much as the over-dominating maternal influence.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just saying, I think we know why the father left. I'm not, I think she wasn't the best wife either.
Right, but they're saying that they both came with this thing like he left in a horrible way. Maybe
he probably just
did something. He did something horrible. He jaded her horribly, and that's what made her turn into this over-domineering disappointment.
Well, I don't think that
just hate not all this anger from her marriage is just filtered onto her son.
I'm just saying there was probably issues before that caused. I'm not defending. We don't know what the real story is, but I'm not defending the father here for leaving. I'm just saying, to me, she's so overbearing that I would imagine that it was that way with her, with the father as well.
Maybe. According to their imagined backstory, she became overbearing after he left.
Everything is a chain reaction, if you will, in life, right? The way you treat one person gets carried on to another.
Well, then let's kind of move on to, I know what you're more interested in talking about anyway.
No, I think that's interesting. I love to hear that they're making up their own kind of backstories to kind of explain, the way they are. That's cool. That when you get that into your character, that you want to know who your father was and why your mother treats you this way, I think that's interesting.
We know Syril became obsessed with finding Cassian, and in his searches caught the attention of Dedra. In the latest episode, Syril basically stalks her, waiting outside the ISB building, and they have that really intense and awkward interaction that makes you think, is this somehow backwards romantic?
I think it is backwards romantic.
I know you do.
Well, come on now.
I mean, he tells her that she's inspired him and given him a new reason to live. And it's hard to tell if she's really agitated and creeped out or if she's, into it.
Yes.
Yes.
Both.
Solar didn't spill any details on a potential romance, but he did give further insight into his character and the scene. I always expected within Syril that he doesn't really know where the lines are, and he has a deep emotional well and level of frustration and anxiety that sits below the surface of his polished and tailored exterior, but it's almost like he's trying to wrestle his inner life within the constrictions of that suit and that hair, if you know what I mean. As a result, that internal battle that's going on within him, it actually doesn't allow enough capacity to recognize, oh, I've overstepped a mark here. It's like he's so wrapped up within his internal battle that he doesn't see beyond his own hand in a way. He can be really emotionally led at times and can be really cerebrally led at times. But he's not really taking in other people's lives or thoughts. I think the only time he really does this properly is in episode 3 when he has to give that speech to the speech to the rest of his dudes, and effectively he's on board the ship. They land on Ferrix, and the penny drops like, oh wait, these people kill people, and this could go really wrong. He's completely out of his depths, and that's when everything does go wrong, and his inner sight is woken up.
Yeah, he's so wrapped up in his own thoughts that he can't
really
necessarily understand. He plays by his own rules, his own boundaries, and doesn't realize others might have different boundaries.
Mm-hmm. He added, where he ends up, I guess, by episode 8 or 9, where he's stalking Dedra. I mean, I didn't anticipate that at all, But what was wonderful is that he has a real incredible trajectory. Within the first 3 episodes, he has a massive high and a massive fall. Then he has to build himself up by going back to live with his mother and then given a handout job in a no-name, horrible working environment where anonymity is kind of the name of the game. So his crawling back from complete depression, I never expected 2 character arcs, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It feels like he got 2 arcs within 12 episodes.
Well, that's the genius of the writing. Complex characters. It's not just simple A to B. It's, sometimes A to B to C to D.
Never.
So right to D for Deidre, right?
Jeez. And then still exists within this, am I being my authentic self? I think seeing and meeting Deidre feels like, oh my god, a fire has been rekindled within me because I see myself in her. I see all of my ideals within her and what she represents, and her instincts about Cassian and this burgeoning rebellion are the same as mine. And feeling seen and acknowledged literally within the heart of the Empire at the ISB is exactly where Syril wants to be. He was operating out of the further reaches in Morlana 1, which is kind of an anomalous planet. The veil is kind of lifted again, and his kind of, Jing is activated. And he's like, oh my gosh, okay. He goes about it the wrong way, of course, by stalking somebody. Cyril's emotional acuity, his social acuity, and his developmental acuity are really not, I guess, what you would call fully developed.
You could say that. I mean, yes, stalking is wrong, but this is a story, right? So we don't, just because you...
She might have been into that.
Well, you're treading in dangerous water by saying something like that.
I'm sorry.
It is a story, and so within the context of that story, something that we might consider to be very wrong can still be entertaining in a way, right? Mm-hmm. And so... Yeah, I find it hilarious that he is kind of obsessed with the worst of the worst.
He is.
He wants to be the worst of the worst himself.
He and Deidre are the heroes of their story.
Yes, they are. They're the heroes of the Empire.
The worst of the worst to us is they're actually the best of the best. They're smart. They have the right instincts. And he sees it in her, and he recognizes it in himself. And she brings out the best in him?
In the best that he wants to be, yes. Mm-hmm. He wants to be. It's so funny. I kind of mentioned it in my review. Like, his mother is so overbearing. His mother kind of tries to control his life. She's looking through his stuff, and that's exactly what he wants to do to everybody else, isn't it?
Yes.
It's ironic, that's why I love the writing in this, because he doesn't even realize that he kind of wants to be his mother on the grand scale.
It's hard to be a balanced human being when your mother is overbearing like that. Yeah.
I mean, your parents, the people you interact with in life, they shape you. Everybody shapes you.
I thought you meant my parents in particular for a second. I was like, what?
Well, no, I wouldn't ever say anything like that. No, but seriously, that's like I said before, like, everything is a chain reaction. Like, if people treat you kindly, you're, in general, kind of probably going to go out and treat other people kindly. If you get treated poorly, really good chance you're going to do the same. And so we see, Syril wants to be like his mother. He has been shaped by his mother, whether he realizes that or not. He wants to rebel against her. In this weird sort of way, he's both the rebellion and the Empire. Because he's trying to fight against his mother. He wants to liberate himself from her, only to find his place to, basically be authoritarian over other people. Mm. So it's fascinating stuff. The writing, like I said, the writing in the show is just incredible.
All right, next we'll move on to Andy Serkis. Do you know he also created a backstory for Kino Loy?
Snoke?
He does talk about that, too.
Really?
Yeah, he recently talked with Collider and Vanity Fair, so I kind of got to hodgepodge a couple interviews together. It was super fun. Where he shared his thoughts on who Kino was before he was arrested by the Empire, and he talks about coming back to Star Wars after Snoke. Mm-hmm. He starts by saying, it's a difficult one coming back to Star Wars, because I'm sure a Snoke origin is exactly what people will think. And why would they think...
Who would ever make a video like that?
And why would they think other? I was a bit confused as to whether to do it or not, but it was purely because I love Rogue One. I truly loved the grounding of that film in a world that felt both real and yet felt epic. So, that's why he came back. He came back because he loved Rogue One. He loved Tony Gilroy's work.
It's funny, not to interrupt your,
No, you're fine. That's a good...
What this show reminds me of is, like, in so many ways it reminds me of the early seasons of Game of Thrones, where not only is it it's like fantasy grounded, like everything mystical in those early seasons of Game of Thrones was on the fringes, right? Those White Walkers, we get glimpses of them, like the gods, like, and magic. They're all these on the very fringes, and everything else feels so grounded. That's kind of what Rogue One feels like. You know the Force is out there. You know the Jedi are out there. You know Darth Vader and the Emperor. And you even have some of these things mentioned, but they're on the fringes. They're not. That's not what the show is about.
All right, now let's go into what he made up for Kino. What I imagined of Kino's backstory before he was in prison was that he was a union leader. He was used to working as a foreman. I wanted him to come from a place where he was put in prison for perhaps standing up for workers' rights, and then put into a position of authority because that's what he does. He is a natural leader. But he really just wants to serve his time. He's got a family. When he was incarcerated, he almost sheds any desire to look out for people other than himself. Just do his time, get out. To try to get out and just survive the sentence, the torture, the desensitization. I think it was the desensitization that made me perhaps have the slightly lost but kind of hardened, tough shell.
That is a perfect backstory.
It really is.
I mean, it makes
because
sense,
it makes sense. And as soon as he still can't get over the fact that he cannot not care about these people.
Yeah, which was so brilliantly done in the latest episode. Like I felt after that first episode, like he just cares about himself. He wants to get out of there.
Well, it makes sense. He's fighting for the rights of the people. It got him thrown in jail. So he goes, fine, I don't care about anybody anymore. We're doing our job. We're doing our work. And he still just can't fight that instinct within him. And now he's like, you know what? I've had it. Workers' rights. Free the prisoners.
It's very hard to fight who we truly are or become. Again, kind of the theme of the video. Like, the people around you, who you are, it's hard to fight that. You become who you are, and sometimes you don't even realize it. And you just continue to want to be that person, which is kind of what is the case with Kino.
Well, if you think about it, the people in this prison, these aren't hardened murderers.
No, these
are probably more people who are charged like Cassian was for, like, you've been labeled a disturber of the peace, one could say.
Oh, goodness.
That's what these people are. Because I don't think they put hardened murderers and thugs into this prison. These are people who they had suspicions of, or just spoke out a little too much or something. And they're like, well, put them in the working prison because
we need more labor.
We know they'll work. They're easier to control.
More free labor. But no, I mean, Kino has been... all these characters are fascinating. That's what makes the show great. It's, every character has this story. You can feel, even if you don't know the story, you can feel that they've come from somewhere. You understand that these are... so many times in a story you feel like this is the beginning of the character. Like, no.
His character isn't just prisoner?
Exactly. Exactly. That's, one of the things I love about this is, like, every character feels like they have come from somewhere, have been influenced and shaped by something.
Yeah. I mean, even that doctor, we've seen that doctor for 5 minutes, and he is so defeated.
Oh, he was, yeah.
He knows it's like his own personal hell punishment. He goes to prison, they're like, you're going to be the doctor of the prison, and they don't let him help anybody.
No, he's there to basically
euthanize
he's kind of making the decision. Can this person get back on their feet?
And can they do it with very minimal effort?
Yeah.
Minimal resources. Exactly. I pulled a splinter out of his thumb, he'll be fine.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that splinter is way too deep. Euthanize. He doesn't get the...
Whoa, I'm glad you're not the doctor. That is a deep splinter. We're going to have to put him down.
Let's say it was something like, we'd have to amputate his thumb.
cut off his hand.
But then he won't work so well. So the umpire would be like, okay, well, it's not worth the effort.
That is a hell of a splinter. But no, I get your point. I thought at first you meant the other doctor we were going to talk about, Dr. Gorst, who he has this like childlike innocence, and another comment that we'll probably talk about in our Saturday video what brought that up. There's like this gleeful childlike innocence to his torture. It's so creepy, but it's perfect.
It's art to him.
Yes. All right. Well, on that note, that's all we got for you this time. So do take to the comments below. Tell us what you think of these backstories. Do you like when actors give thought to their characters and backstory and really get into the role? Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.